Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to this edition of the Duval Dive. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game of Jaguars on SI. And listen, apparently my hair got a lot better in a short span between the intro and right now. I'm all dolled up and ready to go to do Media Day at UCF for the Black and Gold Banner Red. Bing! But in the meantime, I'm here to talk some ball, talk some Jacksonville Jaguars with you. By the way, make sure you check in, like, and subscribe Duval Dive YouTube channel. We're trying to bring you more quality content in more different ways, and the way we do that is getting more subscribes from you out there, the Duval Devout. So make sure you stop by and do that on the Jacksonville Jaguar YouTube page as well as the TikTok. Yes, we have a TikTok as well, so check that out. But how did we get all that? From, well, for one, being there on the ground, which I did one time last week, but the man who's truly been busy, my personal champion, doing a great job going to Jacksonville, getting in there, talking to the people and the players and the coaches and all that, getting the inside scoop and helping you find what you need to know coming out of the Jaguars camp. My man of Big Cat Country, Travis Holmes. What's going on, champion?
Man, that was an intro. I appreciate you, man. Wait, this felt like WWE. I'm here for it.
Well, listen, first of all, let's get ready to rumble. I know that's not the same guy, but listen, this is how thankful the Jacksonville Jaguar community should be for you, Travis D. Holmes. You're my personal champion. Who knows? Maybe there's some out there that think the same of you as well. We can only be so lucky. But listen, I have to come out with this. Let's go from champions to therapists. Or maybe we're taking a victory lap trying to explain things again and tell you things we got right, but you didn't want to listen. I don't know. But apparently people are coming in off of the ledge finally on one Trevor Lawrence. Now, granted, we were inundated with panic. Panic, I tell you. I'm not going to name names, but there was an awful lot of people that couldn't get past, oh, Trevor threw some interceptions in practice. It was so scary. Guys, it was end zone drills. The defense knew what was coming. The offense has so many different changes, and Trevor's getting reacclimated. Then you extend to the full field. By the way, BTJ also, if you remember, Travis, faced similar scrutiny. Oh, my God, what's wrong with the rookie? And then you open the field up, just like we told you might happen, and now he catching bombs. I'm not trying to say we told you. Yes, I am. Travis, build on that for me so I don't sound so cocky.
You're not wrong. You're not giving all the credit, but you're not wrong. Now, we kind of said this is exactly what it was like, and there are all the conversations around Duval County, around the socials, multiple conversations I had with a lot of fans in person, all surrounded around, are you worried about the offense yet? Are you worried about Trevor? Are you worried about BTJ? And it was always a no, but I understood why people had those feelings, if that makes sense. Like, you're supposed to have the feeling about that because you want your quarterback to look incredible in the early times of camp. I mean, of course, you want those highlights. You want to feel good. Who don't want to feel good, man? Like, I get you.
Yeah.
But I understood why they were putting it out there. I even had this conversation in one of my group chats and just like, hey, I don't blame people for freaking out a little bit, but calm down. This is what happens in the off season. You look for things to explode and make into these big things. I mean, take a week off. We'll talk when the pads come back on. And then the pads come back on. And we are singing a new song, baby.
To your credit, Travis D. Holmes. See, it's real because I'm using the full Twitter handle there. Bing! to your credit, I think you said basically the same thing last week. Listen, the pads aren't on yet. Take a breather. Heck, I think we even saw a little bit more activity from Gabe Davis as well once the pads got on and he had the opportunity to use his full physical advantage, such as it would be with his size, right? The whole reason he's there. I don't care if he's wearing 0, he's not replacing Calvin Ridley, so stop that, please. Okay? Thanks. I'm gonna keep throwing that in when I can, man. I was talking to T Wiggs on the sideline last week. Like, man, listen, you and I both been trying to tell these people this is not a Calvin Ridley replacement, and he comes out here wearing 0, making the job harder again, man. Come on.
No, that's fair, man. But again, if you can do anything that just gives the fantasy football community some angst, I'm here for it. Hey, man, make these guys have that lemon booty. Like, make them think that they're taking a victory lap, and the real answer is they just don't know ball. I'm here for that. That's fine. Go ahead, do your thing, Gabe.
Hey, listen, I mean, there's a lot of fantasy football analysts out there who talk about games and points scored and make it a math problem rather than a fill game, which is why you need to hook up and either purchase the magazine of or read the online stylings of my good friend and former associate, I should say coworker, technically speaking, my former colleague, if you will, Brandon Howard, who is an editor for CBS Sports Fantasy Football. So check out his stuff. Bing! Yeah, that counts as a bing, I guess. But yeah, I'm with you on that. From a fantasy, well, I know this isn't on the docket per se, but you got my mind kind of thinking from a fantasy standpoint. I don't know that there are any Jaguars that I would make a starter on my lineup. Save maybe one, but it's not like I would pick him first to do this job. You were saying out of camp the other day that the mega campaign is alive and well. Travis Etienne was looking good. Possibility, an excellent flex option maybe for your fantasy team. But beyond him, who are some other players you might take from the Jag squad that could do well on fantasy?
Well, that's the thing. I'm here for Trevor Lawrence. I mean, as much as people might, well, he's not generally the guy that you're going to pick as far as your first quarterback because he's not named Mahomes and he's not named Josh Allen. Like, I fully understand that. But if you're talking about a middle tier quarterback who you can pick and potentially have that option to explode,
fantasy starter is what I'm asking about.
Right. Then I think that's a reasonable expectation. But you're talking, if it's not Travis Etienne and Evan Ingram, I'm kind of at a loss. I'll be honest. I can be honest and say that, but I do believe Evan Ingram has that upside to potentially, like the tight end market. If it's not Kelsey, if it's not maybe Kittle, you're scraping the bottom of the barrel for everybody. You're hoping and looking for upside, and I think Evan Ingram can give you that. He just had this big 70+ yard touchdown from Lawrence on Wednesday's practice that was going across the field, and it was a beautiful play. I'm here for that Evan Ingram rebound, and I call it rebound because of the way that they're using him, not because of him, having a bad season last year. He was just a chain mover, and now I think he might be a true field stretcher, and I think that would be a really different scenario for him.
Perhaps the term resurgence is stronger. But by the way,
there you go.
Since we're talking about one Evan Ingram, I would be remiss to not thank you again for playing your role as personal champion and catch me in the dang act of once again completely underestimating and underrating Evan freaking Ingram. You're absolutely right. That's the correct answer. He is a starting caliber tight end for a fantasy roster. Obviously not the first choice per se. You mentioned the Kittles and cats of that caliber, and rightly so. But yeah, to not have him again in this conversation is a glaring misstep by me, and you have saved me from myself, and thank you for it.
I mean, again, the guy had 110 catches last year, like that, and that was not a great year for him, if that makes sense. Like, again, because of the way that he was being used, because of the limited running game. If you have a natural running game, and the past 2 practice days, the Jaguars' offensive line and running back core has been having some really dang good running games, some running days. I believe that Evan Ingram will then be able to be that true. I mean, I say tight end, but let's be real. That true slot receiver, and give you a wide receiver 2 slot, receiver type of year, but at tight end. Hey man, I don't know where else you're going to find that if you can have, a 4 receiver lineup basically in fantasy football, because that's what Evan Ingram gives to you.
I mean, you kept talking about Travis Etienne and his involvement. I got to flash the graphic. Bam! Make Etienne great again. There you go. I hope you guys are checking that out on the YouTube channel if you're listening to the podcast, because it's an epic graphic and you should see it at least once. I'm just saying. Anyways, let's get back into this aspect here too. Now in camp, obviously this doesn't mean the defense fell apart per se. They just didn't know what was coming the way they did in the first part of the camp. And listen, I actually feel very good about the fact that they challenged Trevor early like that they're trying to help him, get in there, learn these things. Who knows? Maybe it was an intent to kind of, I don't want to say put him behind the 8 ball per se, but hey, let's start it difficult so the rest of the camp seems easier. That is a school of thought, a coaching philosophy that's out there is, do the hard stuff so that the main stuff.
We've had that conversation. We had that conversation. If it wasn't last week, it might have been the week before. That the thought process was that they were going to start on the things that they struggled doing in
Mhm.
20. They couldn't do short yardage because obviously they run in pads beforehand, but they did everything else. So they focused on red zone because that was something that they struggled in 2023, and even a part of 2022. If you want to think back into how everything went initially. Not to mention, they also, struggled in those money situations, those third and ones, those third and shorts, fourth and shorts, things of that nature. So what do? They start in red zone. They put, this man coverage defensive coordinator and match coverage defensive coordinator, and they give him free reign to know, hey, we're only going to be running these 6 or 7 plays. We don't know. I mean, the defense may not know exactly the play coming at that exact time, but they know general route concepts, what's coming at them overall. And I want Trevor to be able to make the right reads in these situations, or at least get more ability to see these reps to figure out how to beat these.
More
I'm here
experience, more
more
comfort.
experience. Yeah, more experience. I am absolutely here for that. And he struggled, and fans rightfully freaked out because he struggled. And as soon as the field is now extended, as soon as the running game is able to be used, as soon as play action off that running game is able to be used, all of a sudden Trevor has a day where he literally has one incompletion. He follows that up with a quote unquote rough day that was actually pretty accurate, even on the his practice day on Wednesday. Like, he's been doing well since they added pads, and the offensive line, interestingly, has been opening holes. And I won't say I'm excited, but I'm getting there. Like, Tank Bigsby's looking like a new man. All of a
Whoa.
sudden,
Okay.
Travis Etienne is looking like a new man out of the backfield. And again, that is different because if Trevor's making better decisions with the ball, which that means that he's taking more checkdowns, and he's taking more checkdowns, Mega has an entirely new, an entirely new, it's opening up an entire new world for Travis Etienne as far as catching the ball out of the backfield.
And listen, this question we posed even as soon as last week about new guys taking hold. Matter of fact, we have a clip about it on our Duval Dive TikTok. Bing, about that very occurrence of relying on new faces. And who knows, maybe at days in, Mitch Morse is making that big an impact. Now, granted, obviously, early in pads, camp is opening. They're not facing anybody that's out there trying to go true juggernaut, thorough juggernaut. And some of the defensive tackle entities out there are going to be greater than what the offensive line is facing. The challenges in the middle are going to get worse. And listen, that's the expectation. What will get me excited or cause me to take pause maybe on how the joint practice goes in a couple weeks with Tampa, but we'll get there when we get there, But you mentioned. Go ahead.
If you don't mind, I want to also be fair to the defense because some people, I'll say
I was
everybody,
going to go there. I love it. Yeah.
a few people have gone over to the other side. Now, hey, should we be worried about the defense? And I also want to just be clear and be fair to folks when having these conversations. Savage, has been limited in his reps because he's been wearing the non-contact jersey in practice. You have Arik Armstead, who's obviously still on PUP. That impacts the defensive line's ability to get both significant pass rush and also stop the run. Adam
Right.
Gostis was held out of Wednesday's practice because he had a stinger. Jordan Jefferson also held out because he suffered an ankle injury. Like, you have a few guys who are missing on that defense who are difference makers. And I want to make sure I say that when we say, hey, the defense was able to run the ball, the offense was able to run the ball, but this is not a full strength defensive line, but we still do have positives from the defensive line that were there. But you have to judge what happens on the tape. And what happened on the field was the offense was able to open up holes, especially in red zone.
Yeah, and considering the fact, listen, the part where I'm most worried about the defense today, Travis Holmes, is you mentioned all the limitations, you mentioned all the injury, you mentioned all of that. I'm worried about the rate at which the defense has to get ready for this reason. Opening week is that Miami Dolphins team, right? That's going to be an explosive offense. And listen, I know that fans will have a lot of fun watching a shootout, between Tua Tagovailoa
Yeah.
and Trevor Lawrence being the two super extended. Well, actually, hell, all three quarterbacks in Florida got a dang extension, right?
Yeah.
But the bigger headliners being Tua and of course Trevor. Yeah, I talked about Baker Mayfield just last night on the Student of the Game podcast. Bing! And him getting his extension. So make sure you check out the NFC South preview, by the way, as an aside. But yeah, tell me more what you think about that, Travis.
I mean, well, that's going to be interesting. I mean, we've always known that they opened the season up with a very, very curious matchup because, again, that is a team who has the ability to be explosive. They're also willing to push the envelope as far as what they do on offense because they've changed that up just slightly every season under Mike McDaniel. Uh, there are questions like you don't want to be the Denver Broncos. You just want to be an average to above average NFL defense and hold them to a reasonable 24 points, 25 points and under, that range to, be able to realistically win the game because you don't want to get into a shootout with a team like that. But we know the Dolphins off defense is not going to be great, or it's not projected to be great. How about I'll be
That's a
fair?
good answer. Yes.
Yeah, they're not projected to be great. So the only question that remains is what will the Jaguars defense be? And not what would they be at the end of the season, but what will they be in week one? And some of that will come down to health. As long as, Darnell Savage is healthy, how is Jarian Jones progressing within his, rookie progress? How are the rest of the corners, doing as far as just gaining all knowledge in this defense and playing in that aggressiveness? Uh, it's going to be interesting. Let's say it that way. But we do know one thing, and this does benefit the Jaguars, that Miami Dolphins offense does not do well with press coverage. They don't do well with those teams that truly challenge them. We've seen that a few times in 2023. So that for me gives a feather in the cap to Ryan Nielsen and the hope that the Jaguars defense can limit them.
And listen, I mean, if we're going to get right into it, I don't want to break it down entirely. I still want to do a lot more research before I do a game preview proper,
I got you.
which will certainly be here on the Duval Dive. Make no mistake, as that approaches. But I would also wonder about the Dolphins O line facing the bookends of Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines Allen. I haven't forgotten it yet. I'm so proud of myself. And then when Eric Armstead's actually in place, that would be a fascinating matchup that I think goes the Jaguars' main. Could be an equalizer of sorts. You make a solid point there. But let me transition to this. So we were talking about the defense and people being worried about the defense. What's something you'd like to see the defense kind of step up and do a little better or prepare to work on heading into joint practices with the Bucs, which are still a couple weeks away?
Well, this was my question heading into this offseason with the additions that the Jaguars made at the defensive line. I do believe that this is probably one of the best defensive fronts that the Jaguars have had under Trent Baalke. And yet I still do have questions specifically in the area of, are they going to be able to truly stop the run? Those questions haven't disappeared in these first 2 days of pads within practice. But again, they don't have Armstead. They did miss one of the big space eaters in Jordan Jefferson, who they drafted specifically for that ability of stopping the run. They lost even one of the backup, depth options, I'll say, in Adam Gostis on Wednesday's practice. So I fully understand we're not seeing the finished product right now. But that is something that where my eye is truly on. Like, hey, we saw the defense seemingly get punched in the mouth on Tuesday. And I don't think I'm being fair in saying that.
Right.
They the pads came out, and I think that offensive line heard the defensive line chirping a lot when the defense was dominating in those red zone drills without pads earlier in camp. And they came out, the offensive line, and punched someone in the mouth. And we're not talking just Cam Robinson. We're not talking just Walker Little. We're talking across the board. The offensive line won in moving folks those first few days. The
Right.
defense came back on Wednesday and made it more of an even battle across the board. And I want to see more of that moving forward. And obviously when Armstead's back, obviously when Jefferson's back, and what I forgot to mention, Devon Hamilton,
I was going to ask.
Mason Smith, both have been showing up like lately in these first two practices, they're limited on their reps still, not
Sure.
by injury or anything like that. They're just rotating guys in. But when you see them, they flash pretty frequently, and it's to the point where it's just like, oh yeah, let me just note that Hamilton might be back to normal.
So,
Um,
so let me bottom line it. What I hear you telling me is when the O line's supposed to dominate, they do, but then when the defense is at more relative full strength, they do more of what they're supposed to do. So really, the people,
projected to do more of what they're supposed to do. Yes,
what did I say? Expected?
yes. I just wanted to make sure we haven't
Uh,
seen them yet.
Projected is fair. I think expected and projected is just about perspective.
I got you.
Fans expect, analysts project. How about
Okay,
that? And of course,
here for
from
it.
that standpoint, you are projecting because you are one hell of an analyst. But all that in mind, by the way, check out his work at with Big Cat Country. Bing. There you go. So with all that in mind, yeah, no. By the way, Hamilton being in the rotation, I think
Mm,
is a fantastic thing. We mentioned load management earlier in the offseason surrounding OTAs back when Eric Armstead was fresher news on the roster.
right.
Obviously, Devon only improves that particular concept. So,
Hmm.
I mean, from that standpoint, I'll say this too. We've talked about the Bucks being the joint practice. Obviously, the Chiefs are going to be the first
Yeah,
preseason game coming up a week from Saturday. Actually, goodness gracious,
yeah,
how
man.
it's only a matter of time before I'm driving back out the Duval again. I'm saying,
Yeah,
but
I'm really hoping and fingers crossed that they want to play the majority of their starters. I don't expect them to play them all, but I
well,
would love to see that.
well, in your defense, you asked the question very pointedly. Day one of camp on what Coach Peterson's mentality and philosophy is going to be on playing starters, and he said he wants to play everybody. He may not see a lot of starters in Tampa because I think a lot of that work is going to be done off camera, so to speak, in the
On
joint practice sessions by both
Mhm.
teams. And I think that's the way you should do it, by the way, but yeah, I think if Doug Peterson holds to his word and not just having Press Taylor make the calls, by the way, but
Right.
I think we should expect to see a lot of starters in there now. But now we're kind of
Yeah.
in this week leading up to preseason. What's the thing that you've missed seeing in camp that you would like to see happen between then and now?
Well, I just would like to see more of the one-on-ones between the offensive line and the defensive line, just because they do that. They do the one. So for those who haven't been out to camp yet to see it, they have the one-on-ones taking place between the offensive line and defensive line on one end of the field, and on the opposite end of the field, they have the 7-on-7s going on between the defensive backs and linebackers and quarterbacks and receivers and tight ends. Well, if you have to choose at that point, unless you have a team of two, three, four people, you're going to have to choose because you can't really see from one end to the other between all the action going on and everything else. So more time than not, it's been me leaning to the 7-on-7s. I'm a DB. I'm going to look and analyze the DBs and the receivers, that whole chess match. I would like to see more of the defensive line versus the O line one-on-ones, just because I think that's kind of intriguing. Not to mention they got really chippy on Wednesday.
Hmm.
Between they had some chippiness in the teams drill after a play with Tank involving Tank Bixby, but they also had some chippiness going on between the one-on-ones, and I believe it was Walker Little with goodness gracious, I'm drawing a blank on who it was against, but it was supposed basically they were just kind of a lot of pushing and shoving after the fact because, like I said, I think they're tired of each other, like you do get in the dog days of practice.
I'll tell you this, we big folk, that happens, man. The rep goes a little long and you got to give it a little shove to remind the dude, hey, stop at the whistle. These things happen, man. It's all brotherly love there. I
Right. It's not our fights. It's just say it's a little pushing and shoving.
this isn't like anything what happened at, let's just say, a Texans camp or anything like that. Anyway, so,
It's no different than if you're watching a movie and it's just hot as I don't know what in your house. Your AC broke, man. The AC went out for a week and it's just hot as I don't know what. And you love your wife. You want to be around your wife. You want to be around your girlfriend, but she just want to put her legs on top of you. And I'm like, it's hot, bro. It's just can you? I just need some. I love you. You my people, but I need you off me. Like that's what it is right now. Like they just tired of each other a little bit like that, and they just need to hit somebody else. And I think they were just ready to start going against somebody who wears a different jersey, maybe Tampa Bay.
I'll tell you, my first pancake was a joint scrimmage against another team when I was playing for the Rage. God, it was beautiful. And the only people that liked it more than me was coach and my teammates.
Ooh, well, speaking of pancakes, bro, Walker Little had his, introducing DeAndre Prince moment to the NFL,
Oh,
where it was a screen pass to BTJ, and he just kind of like just yeeted him, just off the screen toward the sideline. Prince rolled, he hopped back up, and it was just a little funny moment. I think everybody kind of laughed, like not laughed at him, like I'm pretty sure people on the field saw it and were laughing. It was kind of one of those situations.
You're not laughing at the player. It's like those YouTube videos where you watch, will it blend, and they put something random in the blender, and then it just, when it falls apart, it looks funny. It's one of those. As somebody who has had a corner turn his back to him and run away on a screen, I can see how funny that is. There is a lot of humor in that. Nobody wants to see that mismatch unless they're the coach during the season, watching it happen on his.
Oh, and on Tuesday, Chad Muma also got, kind of calling a spade, got pancaked by Brenton Strange. So I thought that was the main takeaways from, if you're talking pancakes in like big blocks.
Listen, if you're expecting me as critical as I've been of Muma and as how much as I've propped up Brenton Strange, if you'd expect me to be fooled by that, well, that's a whole other question. But hey, in another way that you're probably not ready to be expecting at this point, we got a full show in, my guy. Tell the world.
Lord. Oh man, you can find all of my writings covering the Jaguars, training camp, media availabilities, on-field takeaways, social media highlights, etc., breaking news, all of it. BigCatCountry.com. The team puts out a boatload of articles, a boatload of information. Take a look. Save it as your favorites. If you're not, you are getting secondhand information from these national guys. Please give yourself a better diet of Jacksonville Jaguars, material. Also here, if you're listening to this podcast, please take a moment to Kyle's earlier point, like and subscribe. Help us get to that level while it's still free. It costs you nothing to like and subscribe. And I promise you it helps us. If you really want to support us, that is the way to do it. You can also find me on Tuesdays Inside the Pigskin. That's from the South Florida Tribune. That is at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we talk about all subjects, NFL and college football. But I always have to bring my Jacksonville Jaguars take to it because, I love you guys. But here for it. Where can you be found, sir?
Listen, how much the Jags are just completely misrepresented out there is why I'm honored to cover them myself, despite the fact that I'm a 49er fan. But part of the complete breakfast of consuming a fantastic time with the Jacksonville Jaguars is, of course, Jaguars on SI as well. And, oh, hey, look at this. By the way, shouts to Bo for checking in. And see, this is the kind of comment I love. I'm a Titans fan, but I'll listen in. Nice work. Hey, listen. We will be as objective as we can. I'm going to warm you up front, though, Vibe. I'm not a fan of the Mayonnaise Messiah. I'm wrong about that. I fully expect you to come in the comments and get all up in my business and tell me how wrong I was.
Man.
That's the bet. If I got the Mayonnaise Messiah wrong, I need trash talk from you. At me all you want. That's what I'm talking about. So thanks for jumping in, and we hope to see you in the future. But listen, of course, I'm Kyle Nash, the student of the game. You can find my work on Jaguars on SI, of course, here on the Duval Dive, as we've been talking about. Of course, the student of the game, 9 p.m. Eastern. Check that out on Wednesdays through the various. I got to give props to my dude. Bring it on, he says. I like it. Thanks, Vibe. I appreciate you. But check out that, as well as on Mondays. Coming up here really soon, I record. It'll probably drop on Tuesday, the Night Shift podcast, as we get into UCF football here coming up. I'm dressed up all nice to go to UCF Media Day, covering that for the Black and Gold Banneret. And then don't forget my work as well with the 3-point conversion. Later this month, I will do my AFC South preview. Make sure you check that out. Will I be cruel to the Jags? Will I be nice to the Jags? Will I respect the entire division? You'll have to find that out there. But watching this division evolve over the past 4 years, if nothing else, has been absolutely fun to cover as a football guy. So thanks again to everybody in the comments. Thanks, of course, to my good friend and personal champion, Travis Holmes, for jumping in. But until next time, everyone, class dismissed.